So yeah, let's go into what you can do to solve this tension matter. You need to get it off your chest. Whatever it is that's hurting you, whatever it is that's bothering you, you need to get it off your chest. And I know that sometimes it can be difficult to unpack, how you're feeling. It could have built up for weeks, for months, maybe even years. So it's just sitting there like heavy cement. You don't know how to break it apart. It's sometimes, even if it's recent, it's just mumbled in your brain. You know that you are hurt. You know that he did something to you, but you're not sure exactly why what he said made you feel the way you felt. And it's just a lot. And sometimes you're just unhappy. You don't even know what he did, but you're just getting this off feeling towards him. And, it's just staying there. It's bottled up. So instead of allowing it to continue to build up, one thing that you can do here is to start with journaling. Journaling is a very underestimated tool that can help you bring clarity and that can lead to the process or start the process of healing. Yeah? So what you want to do is that you want to start by writing down how you feel about your husband or about a situation that happened. Write it out. And as you start to write, you might find it hard to stop, right? It will just keep flowing. Write how you're feeling, write how what he said made you feel, write the particular situation, write everything out. That process of writing helps you to, first of all, get the weight off your chest. If you've kept something inside for so long, you haven't spoken about it, you haven't written about it, it's just in there, it has a weight, it settles as a weight in your heart. So writing it out helps to first lift the first bulk of the weight that is sitting down inside your chest, right? The second thing that journaling will help you to do is that it'll, how do I say this? It'll help you to see things from a bird's eye view. So you are looking down at the situation because now it's on paper, you can see it. So you are looking at it, and with that, you can start to now process it. Because when it's inside of you, everything is jumbled up. You might not be able to fully process it, especially if you haven't trained yourself to be able to do that, to, do active reflection in your own mind. But once it's on paper, you can begin to look at it objectively and say, okay, this is where the problem is. This is, okay. It's because I heard this when he said this. Oh, okay. It's because, I told him 2 months ago that I didn't like this, but now he did it again. So that's why it hurt so much. You can now start to piece the puzzle together. And if there's need to have a conversation with your husband, you'll be able to talk, fluently. You'll be able to express yourself without becoming overly emotional. Because that's another thing that women struggle with. When you're hurt with your husband and you haven't processed it first, by the time you're talking to him, it's just tears and, mumbling over stumbling over your words. And the guy is almost like, you're not making sense. What's that? You know the sense you're trying to make, but because you haven't processed it, it's hard for you to communicate it. So journaling helps you to process your thoughts such that when it's time to have a conversation, you are more coherent. You can communicate it in a way that he can understand, right? And then sometimes after journaling, you may even discover that there's really no need to talk about it because now you have clarity, now you understand it. You can now move on from it easily, yeah? Or you might even say that, okay, it's just you that misunderstood something and, nobody's really to blame and all of that. So journaling is such a powerful tool that can bring you clarity and that can help to resolve tension. And of course, if journaling doesn't help, another route you can take is to talk about it with a professional. If journaling doesn't help and you've spoken to your husband and that's also like a dead end, talk to a professional. Talk to a third party, which can be a professional counselor, a mentor, a friend, a pastor, but make sure you're choosing someone who can be objective and who can help both of you to interpret what's going on. Because sometimes it's like you're speaking Greek, your husband is speaking Latin, and so you need a middleman that can interpret from Greek to Latin and from Latin to Greek, right? So get someone who has the capacity to do that. I always recommend a professional counselor, someone who is trained. The reason why I recommend someone who is trained is because a trained marriage counselor or coach or therapist, whatever title they go by, is we've been wired, we've been taught how to see beneath what's going on, right? To spot the underlying issues that could be sponsoring what you are seeing on the surface. Because, for example, if a woman is constantly saying, "Oh, my husband doesn't give me enough time, doesn't give me enough attention," and the man is like, "I'm giving you everything. What more do you want from me? I go to work, but I still make sure I come back earlier." But she's still feeling. It could be that she's dealing with some abandonment issues. It's not about the man. The man can stay with her 24 hours, and by the next day she's still feeling dissatisfied, right? She's still feeling afraid that he's not around her enough. Another man could see that, he feels like his wife is flirting, but she's like, "I'm not flirting, I'm just friendly." I'm like, and in all honesty, when you look at it, she's not flirting, she's just a friendly person. She's just, so do you want her to now become an introvert, or, bottle up and not talk to anybody, only you? And you find out that the issue is not that the woman is talking to that, but the issue is that he has an insecurity issue. Maybe a woman had jilted him in the past and he hasn't resolved that. So that's what a professional helps to do. They see behind the scenes of what's sponsoring the current issue, right? And they help you get to the root of it. Other people, like friends, family, pastors, they have good intentions. They want to help you. They will give you advice, but their advice are usually surface advice, and not in a bad way. More like, so for example, if you have a headache and you go see someone, you go see a layman, a regular person, and say, "Oh, take paracetamol or Panadol, whatever," But if they don't, but if you don't realize that headache is not just, stress or tension headache, it's malaria headache. Do you get? So you can take Panadol today, feel all right, but by tomorrow, I bet that the headache is going to return with body pain, with fever, with everything, right? But if you had seen a doctor first and the doctor says, "Oh, okay, you have a headache. Do you have any other symptoms? Oh, okay, when last did you treat malaria? Oh, have you," they ask questions that only a doctor can ask you. And I can say, "Oh, do you mind running a test?" And then they say it's malaria, and say, "Oh, okay." Of course, he's not going to recommend Panadol alone. He'll say, "Okay, take this Panadol with Coartem, with this and that," because he sees the underlying issue. So the same thing happens when it comes to, counseling, marriage counseling, and marriage therapy. A professional will help you to see more than what meets the eye. Yeah? So if you can, if it's in your power, get a professional counselor. And I say this often, as much as I can. Even as a marriage counselor, I'm a trained marriage counselor, marriage and family life counselor. But my husband and I still have a counselor that we talk to, regularly. Because, yeah, it's that big a deal. It's that important. So if you're not even trained to be a marriage counselor, how much more you need some professional help. Don't deprive yourself or your marriage of professional help. Okay, so the third thing that can make sex undesirable for wives is traumas. And trauma is a word that generally means wound. It was originally used for like physical trauma, physical injuries, physical wounds. But these days we understand trauma to also include emotional and mental injuries, emotional and mental wounds as well, right? So trauma is simply an injury that is inflicted by an external agent, by an external force. You can also describe it as a disorder in behavior and in psyche, in your thinking, that results from severe mental or emotional stress, right? So when there's physical injury to some part of a woman's body, whether caused by accident, caused by sickness, caused by genital mutilation or whatever, sex can become painful and can become, a very unpleasant experience for the woman, because when your body is not able to respond to that sexual, pleasure in that sense, your body cannot cannot how do I say this? Your body cannot produce what it needs for the sexual episode to be enjoyable. Let me break it down. So if there's a genital mutilation, for example, so people, have their clitoris cut off, and you know that your clitoris is one of the things that brings you like the highest point of pleasure in sex. If that part is missing and there's nothing to stimulate over there, your body may not be able to produce what it needs in terms of lubrication and all of that for sex to happen smoothly. So in that case, sex might be very painful for the woman, right? Other things like if your body is experiencing, if you're sick in your body, you might not have the strength for sex. If you had an accident, a part of your body is hurting, you might not be able to fully express yourself sexually. So there will be a limit to what you can do so that you don't aggravate the pain. Yeah? So when there's trauma to the body, a woman might not be able to experience or enjoy sex. And also, beyond physical trauma, when there's emotional or mental trauma, due to different reasons, for some people, maybe they've had sexual abuse, whether that's full on rape or just, being groped and touched by people who they didn't want to touch them. That's one thing that can cause sex to be unpleasant. Another thing can be like negative sex education. If it has been drummed into your ears over time that sex is bad and sex is painful, all those kind of things, when you come to the point of sex with your husband, this thing can keep you from wanting sex or from fully giving yourself to the pleasure of sex, right? So what emotional trauma can do is that it can bring on anxiety, it can bring depression, and it can also even bring psychologically induced pain. What do I mean by that? Sometimes some people go to the hospital, they run tests on them, they do everything, and they say, physically, nothing is wrong with you. Naturally, nothing is wrong with you. It's probably something emotional that is now making your body, feel this way. There's sometimes that you have pain that is not caused by anything other than what is going on inside your emotions, what's going on mentally, right? So it can cause that. Emotional trauma can cause that and make sex painful or unpleasant for the woman. I don't want to go too deep into the topic of vaginismus, but some people's own is brought on by anxiety, by being afraid of sex, and so the muscles in their pelvic muscles, the muscles that you need for sex, are so tight, and so they're not able to release themselves to enjoy the process, and so in such cases they go into therapy. There's nothing you can do like physically, like you can't take meds for it. It's usually a mental healing process to be able to finally release and relax to enjoy it. Of course, that's not that's for some people. For some, it's more of a medical condition, and but that's not the conversation for today. Yeah. So so what do you do about traumas? Get professional help. Like straight to the point. There are no two ways to it. Get professional help. If it's a physical trauma, sickness, and accidents and all of that, of course, talk to your doctor. See how they can help you to alleviate the pain, reduce the pain, and get the healing that you need as much as possible so that you can start to enjoy sex. If it's a genital mutilation issue and things like that, there are other ways that you can have sex, that you can enjoy the pleasure of sex even in the absence of certain body parts. And so that will take a learning process. I'll say speak to a sexologist, speak to someone who is trained in the area of sex, or read books around the subject, right? Books by professionals, not just anybody. And then if it's an emotional trauma, speak with a trained therapist, speak with someone that is trained to address emotional issues, right? And go through the recommended course of healing. It can be painful to unpack, emotional trauma and things like that, but at the end of the day, it will be worth it. So go through that process. Yeah. So the fourth reason why a lot of wives don't enjoy sex is turn-offs. Turn-offs. What is a turn-off? A turn-off is something that causes you to lose interest or enthusiasm about something. So as the average woman, right? The average woman is very particular about how you want things to be done, how you want things to look, how you want things to smell. We're typically more sensitive. You know, our five senses are more sensitive than the average man, right? So when it comes to sex, this also applies. There are certain things that if they are present in your life or in your space, you will not be able to enjoy sex. You might even have been aroused, but the moment you see those things or smell those things or encounter those things, you lose, like, the desire for sex comes crashing down. So how can you turn off the turn-offs? Yeah, I hope you get my wordplay. You need to identify what makes you lose your sexual excitement. And this is so personal to you because, like the saying goes, one man's meat is another man's poison. What works for one person may not work for another person. So your turn-offs are things that are so personal to you. What disturbs you might be fine for me, right? So find those things that turn you off when it comes to sex and address them, right? If for some people it smells, if there's a particular smell that you don't like, how can you get to the root of the smell to eradicate it, or get fragrance to cover it up, right? For some, if it can be how your husband looks. So if your husband is looking a little bit scruffy, you're like, I'm not really feeling it. How can you talk to him to help him? How can you help him to look better so that you can desire him more, right? For some, it's clutter. If the environment is cluttered, you can't really, so if you're in the mood, maybe you're coming in, you're already in the mood, and then you get into a part of the house, maybe your bedroom, and there's clutter. It kills it for you. It kills the mood for you. So how can you ensure that clutter is taken care of? So for me, that's one thing that affects me as well. There's clutter. If my bed is not made, I can't. It's a turn off. So what I do is, as we're getting off the bed, I'm making that bed. So whenever I come home, whenever I come to the room is already, like, there's a table laid out before me. You get, yeah. All right. So if for some people, they need very clean bodies. For a lot of people, actually, there are some people who don't mind dirty sex, and it's okay if you're into it. By dirty sex, I mean like dirty bodies. We don't mind if our bodies are dirty. That's fine if you're into it. But for most people, clean bodies. So how do you ensure that you're both clean before the act? The average man, if you tell him that, if you shower more, I'll sleep with you more, he will shower, right? And if he's still reluctant, see how you can make it more pleasurable or desirable for him. Start your foreplay in shower together, all those kind of things, right? What else? Some people, what turns them off is maybe the way your husband speaks to you during sex. Maybe his voice changes, starts to, like, put on a new persona. You don't like it. Don't manage it. Tell him, see, this thing you're doing, it doesn't help the sexual experience. Like, talk to me normal. Like, you get. So whatever turns you off, turn it off. All right. So finally, the last thing that causes a lot of wives not to enjoy sex is timidity. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. I recommend that you read Sheet Music, which is the book we've been studying this month. There's a chapter called Chapter 11. It talks about the inhibitions, the things that make it difficult for you to have sex, to enjoy sex. And timidity is one of the main things there. When you're self-conscious about your body, when you're afraid that a particular sex position will be seen as nasty or make you feel like a bad girl or in a bad way, whatever. So what do you do about timidity? First, you need to address it. Face it squarely. Why do I feel this way about these things when it comes to sex? Is it Is my reason founded on truth or on lies that have been sold? Confront it, deal with it, right? And if it's body issues, let your husband know how he can start to affirm your body, how he can start to, make you feel like you're the best thing since sliced bread. See, don't underestimate the power of your husband's words to change how you see yourself. Yeah? I'll share a story about that, but this class is already long enough, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So those are the 5 reasons why a lot of wives don't enjoy sex, and I've made them into T's, 5 T's, so that you can remember them easily. Number 1 is tiredness. Number 2 is tension. Number 3 is traumas. Number 4, turn-offs. And number 5, timidity. So see, if you're not enjoying sex, see which one could be the reason why. Drill down into it. Journal about it. Talk to your husband about it. If you need professional help, talk to a professional about it. I'm a professional counselor, so if you want to talk to me about it, that will be fine as well. All right, ladies, come to the end of this class. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. Take care. Bye.